in creating those structures for them. So when you look at the physical and environment in schools that you're creating, right, it's really gonna have a major impact on their well-being, and their individual support. So having the cultural awareness of what's happening, and what they're practicing is really important. Adults, really have to really develop that safety and trust. And kind of you saw in the data, there are instances where the trust and that safety has not developed yet. And this month itself, in this moment in time, is a great way to kind of leverage that level of trust, where you have that level of understand. The educators have that level of understanding, and include them, from an inclusion perspective. And because you can do that, you're also at the same time combating, Islamophobia, anti-Muslim hate, bias, and discrimination. And it really helps to create a more respectful, learning environment for all students. And Muslim students have been yearning, and the data even shows that, yearning for a sense and a level of belonging in schools, but sometimes they may not feel that. And again, there's a fear to ask based off of maybe prior experience, or they're anxious. There's a level of anxiety that they may not get, what they're asking for, and they may look weird, or there's some kind of belief that you'll be frowned upon. And obviously, you look at the cultural context right now and the political climate, and that really is kind of fomenting a lot of these ideas. So, we're looking at these ways at this moment in time to really kind of leverage, and by the very nature of doing that, you're helping to curb Islamophobia and these biases. And again, really brings to the this deeper understanding here, and the accommodations that are made is going to be bringing that level of belonging, and subsequently, dignity. Next slide, please. So, in the faith, there's five pillars, and Ramadan is right there in the middle, which is fasting. So this is, Ramadan is in and of itself is embedded, through the middle, in this case, the middle pillar, which is fasting. Although the other pillars will be incorporated within the month, the main, I think, the main aspect of it is fasting. Next. So some of the things we kind of threw out here, and you can learn to say it if in your own way. And sometimes these words can sound a little different. These are Arabic terms to a degree, but we feel that, and I think it's almost common knowledge. Like, if you have a working terminology of some of these basic terms, they can really, really go a long way, in connecting with your Muslim students. And these are common terms, but they can create bridges of dialogue and connection. And you have to use all of them, obviously, but something very, very, like, often said often is Ramadan Mubarak. So by next Tuesday and Wednesday, that's what a lot of the community will be saying to each other through texts and WhatsApp groups and messages, Ramadan Mubarak. And it literally just means have a blessed Ramadan. In the morning, most of the children who do fast, it's called a suhoor or sehri. It's a pre-Ramadan meal. And that's eaten before you begin the fast. Iftar is what happens when you break the fast in the evening, or when the sun sets. Sometimes you can ask, it's a cool question to ask, and amongst our, people of faith will ask, well, hey, what are you having for iftar? What did you have for iftar last night? Because believe me, what really makes the day go really, really well is we know that we're going to have probably some of the most special foods at the end of the day. Although, we want to make sure that we're trying to not think about food, but and unfortunately, we are thinking about food to a particular degree. And at night, the word is called tarawih. It's just the night prayer, the supplemental night prayers, the additional night prayers that we do. The Quran is the holy book of Islam, and Eid al-Fitr is the actual celebration, the holiday itself at the end of the 29 or 30 days, really just depending on that lunar calendar. And so that is the Eid, and most people would say, just like you say, Ramadan Mubarak, when that day comes, people will say Eid Mubarak. So welcoming the breaking of, or the end of the Ramadan, and the holiday itself, which is called Eid al-Fitr. In terms of what is Ramadan, Ramadan is, like you see here, it's practiced by 2 billion Muslims worldwide. And it's a time of fasting, prayers, and reflection. Again, like the main pillar is fasting itself, but the other pillars are incorporated within it as well, and a special emphasis paid onto them. It's a deeply spiritual practice. If any of you have fasted before, or even done intermittent fasting, there's a moment where you are, I guess, in the sense, there's a lightened state. I know Steve Jobs used to fast and intermittent fast, and even he noticed that there's something that happens cognitively as you're fasting when you're denying yourself certain food and water. Your body, I think the specific term is it has the ketones kick in. So I think it's called the ketogenic diet, right? So that becomes used as fuel. So I don't know if that aids in the spiritual feeling as well, but and it probably possibly is. But it's again, it's really a moment of understanding that it's a spiritual time in the lives of Muslims, and it really is to really connect with and develop a level of self-discipline, and become more mindfulness or God conscious. Like the when is Ramadan? So this year Ramadan is projected to begin on the evening of Wednesday, February 18th. Or sorry, yeah, the evening of February 8th, the day of February 18th. I'm sorry. And so it should be the next day is when it's supposed to start. So it begins at the sunset because it's a lunar calendar, and then the next day is the day that most people that the fasting begins. And it's only through the day. It's the ninth month of the Islamic calendar, and just like the Gregorian calendar, the Islamic calendar also has 12 months. And because it's lunar, it shifts every, about 10 days or 11 days every year. So you will notice that Ramadan next year will begin in earlier February than maybe like around February 1st or 2nd or 3rd, as opposed to kind of in the middle of February. And so what that also means is that for Muslims, the time of fasting shifts throughout the year. To be honest, we love it when it's in the winter, especially when the time change is still here, the normal time, and not when the hours extended. In the summers, it can definitely be tougher. Thanks. In terms of when is Ramadan practiced? So let me get my slide here. So practice is, or sorry, why is Ramadan practice? Forgive me. It's the practice of detachment, really, from the material and the physical needs. And again, going back to the idea of inviting that more of that spiritual connection with the divine, as well as connecting with the people around them and with the people around the world who are suffering. Obviously, it's a practice of denial. So we really understand that it is a practice where you understand how other people experience life on a regular, unfortunately. And so the idea then is to be more mindful of that. And so if we're mindful of that, it's a lot more inquisitive. So it's like like self-inquisitorial nature. And then the process should be some type of reformation to help other people. So we're improving ourselves, and we're improving ourselves. We're also trying to, hopefully understand what other people are experiencing and improve their lot in life as well. And it is something that it's done we fast from the pre-dawn. So it's literally before like the first light, the rays of light come out, until sunset. And then again, we're detaching from, the quote unquote, the worldly pleasures from food, drink, water. And then Ramadan also emphasizes more self-restraint. Again, it's really kind of encouraging more care, concern, obviously for people around us and ourselves in terms of our own self-discipline. Next slide. How do Muslims observe Ramadan? I kind of touched upon that earlier. Really, it's by abstaining from the food, water, smoking, intimacy from the pre-dawn hours till sunset, and like I said, not even water. So yeah, it's not even water. It is doable. And at first, yeah, it becomes it's the even thought of it is harrowing, but it's definitely doable. And along with fasting, we engage in, increased worship. So like a lot of what you saw in those pillars, you're praying, but you're probably going to be praying a bit more during the day, but specifically during the evening. We also, you'll see Muslims who are going to be more dedicated to reciting the Quran itself, and also performing, other acts of services, and worship. In the evenings, many Muslims will go to prayers to their local mosques, and that prayer session lasts roughly about an hour. So it does take them later on into the evening. And so definitely, you're definitely going to get tired. So it's really important then to, for Muslims to hydrate, make sure they're well fed in the evenings and get enough rest for the next day to begin. One of the things here though, in the last 10 days of Ramadan, it's an additional, they up their game basically. And so there's a lot more emphasis on worship. There'll probably be, more prayers in that night. So you might see some of the prayers. I mean, some of the students a little bit more groggy than before. So it's really, really important to just understand the kind of the struggles they're facing, and to make sure that if there's things that are happening in school, really kind of help accommodate that particular struggle that they're experiencing, because they have to do these in the last 10 nights. And it's really just, like I said, upping the game. And so, if we can make these accommodations that we'll talk about in schools, it will really, really help them out. Next. In terms of who's required to fast in Ramadan, it's basically, it's every able-bodied individual of age. Basically, if you've gone through or begun puberty, so it can be around 12, 13. Those are the only ones who are required to fast. You have some families who might encourage, like we talked about, some families who might encourage younger children to fast. Maybe even just to get like the practice of fasting. They might like fast half the day. Like if they're 7, 8, 9 years old, they might just practice fasting from breakfast. But if you're over the age of 13, it becomes an obligation. There are obviously, discrepancies and exceptions, where, again, child who not reached puberty, elderly individuals, those who are sick, anybody who's pregnant or nursing, travelers can abstain from it, and women during their menstruation periods and they're also exempt from praying at that moment, at that time as well. And although this is an obligatory act, these are these exceptions that the faith takes in consideration to the struggles that people experience and have. And I think
Thank you, Osman.
think
I think just to
I,
just
I,
add,
I
oh, go ahead.
apologize, Ben. I apologize, but I think I took one slide over. So please,
It's okay. It's okay.
forgive me. My
No, so I think just wanted to add on as well is that so typically for educators that are in the room, um, for those that typically middle school and high school are the age or time period where students actually get to try to practice the fasting the entire day for the whole month. So anytime before that, typically for elementary school students, they would probably do like a half day, as Osman shared. Maybe they'd go to school and not fast, but when they head home, then they fast till the end of the day. So obviously families can differ, and sometimes there are students that are younger that are willing to do it also. Just wanted to put that out there. Now, what does the typical day look like for a student that is fasting? For a day, for a full day, they typically wake up around 4:30 a.m., which is, before dawn, and they would have kind of like their breakfast, and then around 5:08 a.m., they would typically pray. Some students would go back to sleep, some just kind of push through. And then again, from pre-dawn to sunset, they don't typically have anything. And then around right now, the estimated time for the first day of Ramadan, which is on Wednesday, it's going to be 5:38 p.m. is when sunset is. And so they typically, again, will not eat from 5:08 a.m. to basically 5:38 p.m. And afterwards, they would typically head out with their family or, their relatives, and they would go to pray at the mosque. Again, this time is a very exciting time for students because they get to see their friends at the mosque every day. They get to have dinner with them. They get to see their relatives. And so it is an exciting time, but again, it could be exhausting because they're not having energy throughout the day to sustain that until they break their fast. Now, what are some, there are a lot of benefits when it comes to Ramadan. Physically, students may demonstrate increased self-discipline and awareness of their routines, including eating, sleeping, and energy levels. Mentally, Ramadan can encourage reflection, patience, and emotional regulation, which may support coping skills such as stress management and perseverance during the school day. And spiritually and socially, the month emphasizes values such as gratitude, compassion, and purpose, often strengthening students' sense of identity, belonging, and connection to their community. So, what is Eid al-Fitr? Eid is what marks the end of Ramadan. This year, it is expected to be on Friday, March 20th. This is one of the two major holidays that happen in the year. Usually, the day begins with a morning prayer, often performed with the community, followed by a day of enjoying delicious food, exchanging gifts with their loved ones and spending time with them. So it's always appreciated when school staff acknowledge this holiday in the classroom, just as other holidays are recognized and celebrated. I do want to point, though, that we wouldn't be acknowledging and celebrating it the day of because we would want the students to take the day off to go and spend it with their families. So then it would be something like, the following Monday where we get to celebrate once they return. And unfortunately, there are a lot of students that actually go to school on this day just because family they don't want to they don't know if they're going to be accommodated. They're worried about a test that's coming up, which one we'll get into in a little bit in terms of accommodations and what that looks like. But there are some students, unfortunately, that we know where parents just don't want any trouble and they don't want their kids to be behind anything. And so it's always nice when staff are also acknowledging it and working with the parents to see what could they do to work it out where they can not go to school and just catch up once they return. So obviously, what are, some ways to accommodate Muslim students during Ramadan? I think the first thing is to really create an open dialogue, right, about Ramadan within the school community. So when you encourage open communication, schools can help reduce these anxieties and make students feel more comfortable. And so always checking in at the beginning of the right before it starts. This is a good time to check in. Even as a school wide and as a teacher, from teacher to students, checking in with your student or their parent to understand their individual needs and determine which accommodations would be helpful. Again, not all students would be fasting. So, we don't want to also assume that every Muslim student that we know is currently fasting and partaking in the month of Ramadan. So it's good to just kind of check in and see what it is that they need. And then from there, you get to see like how you could support. Now, here are some examples of accommodations during Ramadan. The first thing is to really provide an alternative plan during lunchtime. So some students, again, they don't mind sitting and hanging out with their friends and watching them eat. There are some students, though, that would like a space where they could step out. They could either go to the library or find a classroom to read, work on homework, or play board games. So it's just knowing that there is another space that they could go to. Also offering to-go school lunches for fasting students. It really goes back to the district whether or not they want to partake in this. But basically, if a school signs up or the district signs up to offer to-go meals, what happens is students that are fasting could potentially, pick up, let's say they're fasting and they cannot have their lunch, then they could work with the school to come afterwards at the end of the day and pick up within like a 30-minute to a 1 hour time slot where students that are fasting can pick up either their breakfast or their lunch for the day and they can have it later. Also offering Muslims are required to, pray 5 times a day. And a lot of the middle school and high school students may want to pray one of the prayers that typically falls during school hours. So providing a designated quiet space where students can pray during the day is an essential accommodation as well. And, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a prayer room. It could be like a mindfulness room or a meditation room where other communities and other faiths can also, utilize this room whenever they need it. Another thing is, and again, feel free to ask any questions. This is the time if you'd like to, you could drop it in the Q&A or the chat. Another thing that you could do as, school educators and teachers in general is consider shifting important exams or assignments to alleviate the added pressure of fasting. So, for example, the physical demands of fasting, especially in the afternoon, the energy levels may dip, right? And so maybe scheduling certain tests or exams at the beginning of the day where they just had their breakfast and they're still in their prime time energy versus somewhere towards later in the afternoon, making it harder again for students to focus. Another thing, which is a huge one, is physical activity modifications. So under the policy of AB 2377, which is the section ed code is on there as well. This policy accommodates students fasting by offering them a modified exercise schedule or providing them academic assignments relating to physical education. So maybe having them, not necessarily just skip PE altogether, but what are some activities that they could do or assignments that they could take where it doesn't impact their grade? We've had incidents before where students are reporting to us that, the PE teacher didn't accommodate their student and they failed them because they weren't running, right? And this student is fasting, and so they weren't able to participate, but they didn't get the accommodations from their teacher. So just ensuring that is something that is communicated throughout the PE department. And something else is avoiding food-related activities. While food at lunchtime is inevitable, alternative activities and lessons that avoid exposure to foods during this month, maybe they could be scheduled before or after, or just find other activities that can include all students and won't leave fasting students behind, and leaving them obviously feeling hungry as well. And then last but not least, providing excused absence for religious holiday, which is we discussed Eid al-Fitr. Um, there is also a policy, AB 1503, which grants students in K through 12 a full day of excused absence time per semester for religious purposes. So just making sure that, they're not they're not being not ensuring that they're not being excused for missing school for their religious holiday. I wanted just to check if there's any questions in the chat box. Okay, we're good so far. Now, how can also educators support Muslim students' mental health? Supporting Muslim students during Ramadan doesn't mean assuming that they're having a hard time or putting them on the spot to explain Ramadan, but it's really a way to just kind of start with a simple check-in, like using gentle, open-ended check-ins, like how's Ramadan going for you? That gives the student room to share as much or as little as they want. And if they mention feeling tired or stressed, it helps to respond something like, that makes sense. Thanks for telling me. Let's figure out how we could help. That way you're acknowledging what they're experiencing while still respecting that Ramadan can be meaningful and important to the student. And some support can really be practical, like just helping them find a quieter space during lunchtime, being mindful about timing for demanding activities when possible, and then backing them up if they need accommodations and aren't sure how to ask. Again, some students just don't know that they can be accommodated, that they can, get a flexible schedule for PE, or that they can go to a quiet space during lunchtime if they don't want to be around their friends while they're eating. So, and just as important, students shouldn't feel like they have to share personal details about their faith or their mental health in order to get support. So when it makes sense, checking in with families can also really build trust and make sure that the support at school matches what the students actually need. I'm going to pass it back to my colleague Osman.
Thank you, Ben. And like what Ben's talking about, much of it is really lies in, I think, you would think in uncertainty of the school responding or what accommodations they can get, and so there's that fear whether they may or may not be able to get what they're rightfully due. And again, it really goes back to eliminating the level of uncertainty and ensuring the fact that these accommodations are part of the duty of care, as educators to accommodate all students and to find these specific avenues of accommodation and connection. The mental health in Islam, I mean, this is something that really needs to be destigmatized. Islam itself, and sometimes there's a mixture here. It's a more cultural stigma than anything else, but Islam in and of itself, really emphasizes care for the body, mind, and spirit, and it really emphasizes balance. Emotional distress is recognized, and seeking help is encouraged within the faith. Many of the teachings within the faith emphasize reflection, patience, community, care, and compassion. And again, it's really sometimes there's a discrepancy between faith and culture. Most of the stigma that you'll see is culture, that is gets conflated with the faith, and that's why some families may exert or some uncertainty in terms, or the school may have a level of uncertainty in dealing with certain families. But the faith in itself, if they ever say it's because of the faith, that's not true. And if you ever need any support, the center itself will, and through care as well, can provide some of these services, and help to even facilitate and assist in the communication, if you need. And again, sometimes the faith, sometimes the mental health aspect and faith, these are the culture and the faith. Again conflated, and that can lead to that misunderstanding. But for many students, faith is actually a source of resilience, and provides meaning and grounding, and coping during stressful periods like Ramadan itself. And move on to activities to promote understanding of Ramadan. Again, these can be done, some of these can be done pre or post Ramadan itself. So, in addition to providing accommodation, schools can take steps to promote cultural awareness and inclusion through activities that highlight the significance of Ramadan and Eid. They can be done through cultural lessons, food exploration, again, like I said, pre or post, and Ramadan theme activities, which we'll kind of showcase right after. Also, one of the biggest things you could do is definitely in your libraries, have Ramadan books, resources available, create a Ramadan table where children can really check out the fact that you've created a Ramadan table that has a lot of Ramadan related material, or material related to this, to just Muslim life, some of this, just, and we have resources available on our website as well that you can utilize to see what kind of resources, literary resources that we have available, that are available, that you can get. So next slide, please. Making chocolate covered dates. This is something, again, it's something you could do afterwards. Um, if you know it or not, dates are actually a common food that's eaten to break the fast. It's extremely popular. And so obviously adding the different types of chocolates and other things to it really is an enticing end to the fast. Sometimes you can dip it in. I mean, I prefer dark chocolate. Different people have different tastes and different palates. And so, but we really, I've grown really accustomed to love dates. They're a great power food. And for whatever odd reason, at the end of the day, we have dates. There's a different level, like I guess you say, of satiation, and it really satiates your hunger. Sometimes a couple of dates is all you need. Try it sometime. If you do intermittent fasting, have a date at the very end. See how it feels. Next, Ramadan lanterns. These are really cool, even if it's middle school or high school. It's a great activity. These lanterns are it's a symbolic, within the Muslim world, where they will decorate their houses, their markets, with lanterns. And this is a really cool way to kind of bring in a traditional symbol, so to speak, of Ramadan, in the school environment, in the classrooms even. Next. In terms of, because Ramadan is, a moment of fasting and denial, there's invariably this automatic feeling of gratitude, and there's a special emphasis in that particular aspect within, as a form of self-reflection within Ramadan. And there's plenty of research that's shown that the daily ritual of practicing gratitude and thankfulness. It's through writing, journals or anything like that, or even just saying three positive things, leads to more optimism, a lot more optimistic outlook, and lowering any type of negative affect. When I was in the Bay Area, I lived there for a couple of years. There was at UC Berkeley. It's called the Greater Good Science Center. Their founder, his name is Dr. Keltner, and he spoke at length. I remember hearing this years and years ago about the practice of gratitude journaling and the shift, how our focus can shift from what's lacking to what's abundant. And he noted specifically, gratitude strengthens social bonds and fosters a greater sense of connection, which enhances, happiness and overall well-being. Next, yeah, you know what happened to our president? No worries. Yeah, next. And so breath. Yes. So we're talking about, looking at a way to story time and looking at ways you can incorporate, Ramadan theme activities, having it in the library. And so we're actively updating our Ramadan library on our website. And so you'll see if you click on one of our, and we'll showcase at the very end, like if you go to our resources page, you can click on that and you'll be able to see some of the entries that we've curated for a Ramadan library. So you can look at that and get those for if there's a teacher, get it for their classroom. If you're an administrator, you can get it for your school. Next, Eid parties. It's a great way to celebrate at the very end. Like I said, at the end of the fast, there's one day that it's called Eid al-Fitr, and that's the day that they take off. And that's usually also the day that it's the day of the end of the fast. It's a day that we celebrate for the entire day. It is a day that we end up eating a lot. So whatever we've lost, we probably gained by noon that day. But it really is a joyous occasion. It's a connection. We connect with family members, we connect with community members, play games, and it really is the point of that is to really be as festive as possible to ensure that the evolution, I guess you would say, of those 30 days, and then this is the grand finale, and it really showcases the community that came together for 30 days and now celebrates this monumental achievement, so to speak. And so that is a day usually like Ban said, that's a day that kids will take off. And so that day, taking off is so pivotal for them to be part of that community and community celebration. Whereas in the past, and I know even me growing up here in Southern California, there was always this wavering question whether we take it off, what's going to happen to the tests, are we permitted, to do this? And so sometimes there's a lot of kids who would end up missing. They would just go to the morning prayer and then go back to school. So we really want to emphasize that this is such an important day for Muslims to celebrate and be festive, and to give them that time off without docking them, whether it's through tests or a day off. And now we see that, they can't be, in terms of the ed code itself and the California AB, both those codes really help facilitate, the struggles they're facing and the particular day off that they could take at this time, which will be on February or March 20th, if I'm not mistaken. It can change the lunar calendar. Sometimes there is a discrepancy in the sighting of the moon. So it could be around February 20th or the 19th or the 21st, but it's usually the 20th. And so please that's a day that really is a day of celebration. And we'd love for you to, accommodate that and even throw a little party if you like. And again, you can throw in this way, in this time, you can have as much food as possible if you'd like. That concludes, our Ramadan accommodations program from the Center for the Prevention of Hate and Bullying. I know we were asking for any questions. Are there any questions at this junction that you have? We can definitely answer. Hopefully, there is more knowledge, maybe anything you missed in the past, and hopefully we were able to kind of enlighten and enrich your understanding of both Ramadan and obviously the struggles your students would face. And next, so for a lot of our Ramadan, training guides, you'll see if you click on this or if you scan the barcode, it'll take you directly to those pages on our website, and you'll be able to access a lot of the material there. Where we've been working on populating this for a full while now, and it's an active population page. We'll be actively populating as the days go, the months go, and the years go. So if you ever revisit our website, you'll see a lot more resources that are available throughout the year, and as we proceed forward. And lastly, you can, I don't know what the saying is, follow us, like, link. Was it like? hit subscribe. You can follow us through our Facebook accounts, our social media. We're also on LinkedIn, and our website is cphp.org. And the link, I think we're missing it right now. It's okay, Ben. Don't worry.
No, I don't know why
Um,
today it's just I did want to go back to just sharing some of the resources
yes.
that we have for educators. I will put the link in the chat box, but this is where all of our Ramadan resources are, including school email templates. We have our poster that we, recommend, educators to display on their school site, where it basically shares that we support students and we respect and support students that are observing Ramadan. And it's a little, information. If you want to work with us, we could try to ship something to your school. And going back to, there are some other resources such as the Ramadan book recommendations that Osman was sharing. Here are some important Islamic dates. And then last but not least, we also have some mental health resources that are focused for the BMEMSA students. And last but not least, this is a educator's guide that goes over many other things. Today we just talked about Ramadan, but there's so much more. So I just wanted to kind of share that. And then I'll go ahead, I'll link this to the to our chat. Um, and then I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing so then I can go back to the slide that Osman was sharing.
And all our resources are free. Our trainings are free. So if you ever need any type of training, again, we do offer this for schools, cultural awareness training, where we're doing one for Manhattan Beach Unified School District in May for their site admin. So, all the trainings are free. If there's anything you need, please check our website. It has a lot of information in terms of things that may be something that you may need in your school. And if anything is clarification, or you need a little bit more description about, or you need to just talk, have a one-on-one with us, please reach out to us at info@cphb.org. And then obviously on our website, you just click on that. You can email us through that as well. Um, I know we're at 4:53. We plan on this being about a 45-minute session with a 10-minute Q&A. Would love to hear any questions that you have now or later. If something comes up that you want to ask, please feel free to reach out to us. We're more than willing to help out in any way we can. And so if you click on the link, the QR code here that Dan had, it's a short, quick feedback survey. It really helps, excuse me, really helps us understand, where we can improve, what we did well and what we can improve upon. And we want to ensure that our presentations meet the needs of schools, and the Muslim students throughout the state of California. So we really appreciate your feedback. And thank you so much for coming out today, virtually, of course. Really appreciate it. And we hope to see you soon and work with you soon. Thank you.